Okay, fourth grade. Here we are again with Hank. We are on chapter 6. This is what has just happened. Hank ate the chicken who got killed. He did not kill the chicken, but he ate it, and he got caught. And now Sally Mae, the humans, think that he has killed the chicken. So he's kind of in trouble. He has left the ranch. He has gone rogue, as they say. So here we are, chapter 6. It's called Buzzards. One of the funnier chapters, I think, in this book. I made my way north, away from headquarters and up into the canyon country. If a dog was going to go back to the wild, that was the place to go. Funny how good it felt walking away from everything. The job, the responsibility, the constant worry. When I crossed the road there by the mailbox, I felt free for the first time in years. On the other side of the road, I stopped and looked back. Drover had followed me about 100 yards and stopped. He was watching. Maybe he thought I would change my mind and go back. Maybe he was waiting for me to tell him to come on. I didn't. I ran my eyes over the ranch I had loved and protected for so many years, waved farewell to Drover, and went on my way. I wondered how Loper and Slim and Sally Mae would react when they figured out that I had resigned and moved on. I had an idea they'd be sorry. They'd realize how they'd done me wrong and misjudged me and accused me of terrible things I didn't do. I mean, all I did was eat a dead chicken, and she wasn't a bit deader when I finished than when I started. Maybe they'd cry. Why not? A lot of people cry over their dogs. They tell me that when Lassie and Rin Tin Tin were big on TV, people used to cry when they thought Lassie was in a jam she couldn't get out of. And when Rinny had got himself chewed up by a bear and it appeared that he wouldn't pull out of it, everybody cried. People never realize just how important a dog is until it's too late. In life we get yelled at and cursed and kicked around, but when we're gone, people wish they had us back. Yeah, they'd cry when they found out that old Hank had moved on, and they'd cry even harder when it dawned on them that their ranch was being protected, and I mean so-called protected, by Pete the Cat and Drover the Chicken-Hearted. That would wring tears out of a Bodark post. Yep, they'd cry and they'd say, "Oh, I wish we had Hanky back. He had his faults, but he was a good honest dog. It just won't be the same around here without him." Around sundown, they'd walk out into the pasture and call, "Hank, here, Hank. Come on, Hanky. Come on, boy." And you know what? I'd be up in them canyons eating fresh meat instead of co-op dog food, listening to the sounds of nature and enjoying pure peace and freedom. I'd hear 'em calling my name, begging me to come back, but I wouldn't go. They'd had their chance. I tried to go straight and live within the law, but they drove me to drastic measures, drove me to follow the Owl Hoot trail and become an outlaw. Next morning they'd get in the pickup and go driving around, checking all the spots where I used to hang out. The sewer, the gas tanks, the corral, the creek, but I wouldn't be there. And then they'd drive over to the neighbor's place. "Hey, anybody seen Hank? We've lost our cow dog." "No? Well, we're offering a $500 reward to anybody who finds him." Then they'd start driving through the pastures, honking the horn and calling, "Hank, here, boy. Come on home, Hanky. We miss you. We're sorry for everything we've done. We'll do anything if you'll just come home." Laying off in them canyons, I'd hear 'em calling. Peeking through the rocks, I'd see 'em driving slow across the pasture. But I wouldn't go back. Injustice has changed me, turned me bitter, and snapped something inside me. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about when I turned my back on the ranch forever and hit the Owl Hoot trail. They say you're not supposed to feel good about other people's misfortunes, but I got to admit that it gave me considerable wicked pleasure to know that I had left them weeping and that with me gone the ranch was going to fall apart real quick. That's the kind of satisfaction that dog food and a flea collar just don't buy ya. Must have been late afternoon when I reached the wild country up near the head of one of them canyons. It was pretty hot down there, not much breeze. The canyon walls rose up 100 feet in the air, and a couple of buzzards floating in the sky overhead. I was pretty tired, and my feet was kind of sore from walking over the rocks, so when I found a little spring of water, I jumped in and rolled around. It was pleasant, but not nearly as satisfying as a roll in the sewer. That was one thing about my old life that I would miss. I always looked forward to the middle of the day when me and Drover used to go down to the place where the septic tank overflowed and hop in, splash and roll around with our paws in the air, and then get out and have a good old-fashioned head-to-tail shake. You can say what you want about spring water, but if you ask me, it ain't near as refreshing or healthful as good old septic tank water. And I always liked the deep, rich, manly smell of it. A dog ought to smell like a dog, seems to me, and I never had no desire to be one of those town dogs that get their hair clipped and their toenails painted and get sprayed all over with that stinking perfume stuff. Perfume gives me a headache and stops up my nose. Anyway, that spring pool wasn't as refreshing as the sewer would have been, but I managed to cool myself down and satisfy my thirst. I wallered around in it for 10-15 minutes, and when I was ready to get out, I noticed that I had some company. Those buzzards that had been floating around at the rim of the canyon had dropped in for a visit. 2 of them. They were perched on the ground near the edge of the pool, staring at me. I showed them some fangs right away. I tried to be friendly and all that, but there's just something about a buzzard that don't sit right with me. Maybe it's because they're so ugly. Looks ain't everything in this life unless you happen to look like a turkey buzzard, and then they're pretty crucial. It's hard to be friendly to something that ugly. I gave 'em a growl. They bent their necks forward and stared at me. Then Wallace, the older of the 2, said, "We thought maybe you was dead." "Thinkin' gets a bird like you in trouble. Run along, I got things to do." They didn't move, so I stepped out on a dry land and shook myself, throwed water all over Wallace. He dropped his wings and took a couple of steps backward. "He ain't dead, Junior. You made a mistake." "I tell ya, he's dead, Pa. I just know he is." Junior seemed to have a little stutter problem. "When I picked up a signal, something's dead. Remember that ground squirrel? I picked him up at 500 yards, and what did you say?" Wallace frowned and squinted one eye. "I don't recall what I said. What did I say?" "You said I was seeing things. You said my eyes was hooked up to my belly. Oh, yeah, it's coming back to me now. And you said I didn't have enough experience, and when I get as old as you, maybe I'd amount to something." "Yeah, I was just trying to be optimistic, son. You can't blame me for that." Wallace burped, and the whole canyon went sour. "Dang, I'm hungry." "I'm telling you, Pa, he's dead, and I picked up the signals." They moved a little closer and looked me over real careful. "Junior, if he's dead, how come he crawled out of that water hole?" "Beats me." "And how come his eyes are open and he's looking back at us?" "Beats me, but he's dead." "Maybe so, son. I never did claim to know everything." "Yeah, you did. Yesterday morning." All right, I take it back." "Hey," his head shot up in the air, "I'm starting to pick up the signals now, too. He's dead. You're right. I told you so." They came toward me. I watched them and lifted my lip on the right side. "Whoa, Junior, hold it, son. Did you see that lip go up? Did you see them teeth? Look there, son. You see what I'm saying?" And now, here's where we are. The 2 vultures. One is old, one is young, and they think Hank is dead. Some of you might remember why this is from the last chapter. Junior stretched out his skinny neck and studied me for a minute. "That don't mean nothing. I'll prove it." And with that, Junior marched up and pecked me on the top of the head. As you might imagine, I didn't care for that, and I took a snap at Junior and relieved him of a double handful of feathers. The buzzards went running for cover. The old man tripped over a rock, went down, hopped up, and kept going, looking back over his wing the whole time. I told you he wasn't dead. But, Pa, I told you once, I told you twice, I told you 3 times. But, Pa, you're going to keep fooling around and getting us hurt one of these days. But, Pa, what's that around his neck? Huh? They were back to looking at me again. That's where the signal's coming from. That thing around his neck under his chin. Old Wallace's eyes popped open and a smile came over his beak. I believe you're right, son. It's a chicken head. Wallace put on a pleasant face for a buzzard and came waddling over to me. Hey there, you're new around here. Maybe. I'm Wallace, and this here's Junior. And we was just, well, what would you take for that chicken head? What you got? They went into a huddle. Then the old man said, Tell you what, neighbor, times are hard right now. My eyes is going bad on me, and Junior, he's a little bit on the simple-minded side of things. And we haven't had a good meal in 3 days. We sure are hungry, and we sure could use a chicken head right now, till our luck changes. We'll have to take it on credit. It's the long and the short of it. We'd do you a favor sometime. Wallace nodded his head. Yeah, we would. We surely would, because we never forget a good deed. I thought it over. Seemed to me that trading a stinking chicken head for a buzzard's goodwill was about an even swap. You couldn't take either one of them to the bank. Tell you what, boys, if you can chew the string in half, I'll let you have the head. Their eyes lit up, and Junior started toward me, only the old man slapped him across the mouth with his wing. I'll handle this. You just stand by for further orders. Wallace waddled over and squinted at the string. He leaned out his neck and took a bite. Got my ear instead of the string. I yelped and jumped away. I'm sorry, dang it, I'm sorry. It's my eyes. Let me try again. All right, try again, but leave the ear where it sits. He tried again, and this time he found the string and chewed it in half. Just as soon as the head hit the ground, Junior made a dive for it, swooped it up in his beak, and ran off. The old man went after him, flapping his wings and stumbling over rocks and things. Junior, you get back here! Junior! They fought over it for 5 minutes. First Junior had it, then Wallace had it. Then they got so busy fighting that it fell to the ground. A chicken hawk swooped down and picked it up, and that was the last they ever saw of their supper. That stopped the fight. See what you've gone and done, Wallace squawked. You done it 'cause you're so greedy. It was about dark by this time, so I found me a comfortable spot and curled up for the night. Junior and Wallace argued back and forth for another hour until at last they stopped talking and we had some peace and quiet. I was drifting off to sleep when I heard Junior's voice. Pa? What? I'm hungry. You ought to be after the way you acted. Silence. Pa? What? Did you ever eat the dog? I raised my head. The first son of a buck that comes creeping around me in the night is going to get his legs tore off, one by one. Didn't hear another sound out of them birds for the rest of the night, and they didn't stay for breakfast either. Okay, that's the end of our chapter. Those poor buzzards, they were fighting and they lost their lunch. Okay, until next time, 4th grade.